Right now, in the Persian Gulf, there's this tiny piece of land that has become the absolute flashpoint for a global crisis. We're talking about a standoff between two major world powers. And yeah, the fate of the entire global economy is just hanging in the balance. This is the story of how one tiny but incredibly vital island became the center of it all. This is the story of Kharg Island.
And look, what's happening here? It's so much bigger than just a regional conflict. The core of this crisis, when you really boil it down, is terrifyingly simple. You have one island, one single threat, and the very real possibility of an economic collapse that would send shockwaves across the entire world.
Okay, so to really get what's at stake here, we first need to understand why this one island is so unbelievably important. We're essentially talking about Iran's economic jugular vein.
Now, Kharg Island, it's not what you'd call a major city or some huge military fortress. It's actually a small, kind of unassuming island just 15 miles off the Iranian coast, but its value? It is immense. It is the single most important oil terminal for the entire country.
90%. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. 90% of all of Iran's oil exports, every single drop, flows through this one single point. It's not just a major hub. For all practical purposes, it is Iran's oil economy.
And experts are crystal clear on this. As one researcher put it, if Iran were to lose control of Kharg, it would be difficult for the country to even function. This isn't really about politics, it's about pure economic survival. This island is the lifeblood that funds the government, the military, well, everything.
So you've got this one massive vulnerability, and it just got hit with a very loud, very clear warning shot. And that brings us to the event that pushed this whole thing right to the edge.
So on the night of March 13th, the island was just rocked by explosions. The United States later confirmed it hit over 90 different targets. But here's the kicker. It's what they didn't hit that tells the real story. This was a surgical strike, and it was designed to send a very specific message by leaving those vital oil facilities standing, for now.
So what did they hit? Well, the target list was purely military, things like mine and missile storage, air defenses, a naval base, even airport facilities. Every single one was specifically chosen to weaken Iran's ability to defend the island, or to project its own power from it.
And you'd better believe the message was delivered with some serious theatrical flair by President Trump himself. He went public, announcing the raid, and framed it as this overwhelming show of power, making it absolutely clear that he had chosen to obliterate only the military targets on what he called Iran's crown jewel.
All right, so the first shots have been fired, and immediately this whole thing explodes into a high-stakes war of words, with each side throwing down some seriously dangerous ultimatums.
And this right here, it lays out the standoff perfectly. On one side, you have Trump's ultimatum, which is pretty clear. Stop messing with ships in the Strait of Hormuz, or I will destroy your economy. And on the other side, Iran's response is just as blunt. You touch our oil facilities, and we will turn U.S.-linked facilities in the region to a pile of ashes.
But Iran didn't just stop there. Oh no, they seriously upped the ante. They widened the threat in a big way, publicly naming 3 huge ports in the United Arab Emirates, Jabal Ali, Khalifa, and Fujairah, as legitimate targets. This was a clear signal that if things escalate, the fight won't be confined to Iran alone.
So all these words, are they just talk? Nope. They're being backed up by some pretty chilling military movements, which raises the terrifying question, what is the next move?
Before we even get to the military chess game, just look at the economic fallout that's already happened. Global oil prices have shot up by over 40%. This isn't some abstract problem on a stock ticker. This has a direct and immediate impact on the global economy, and probably on your wallet too. And here's why that is. The Strait of Hormuz is what they call a critical choke point. A full 1/5 of the entire world's oil supply has to pass through this one narrow strip of water. So any disruption here, or even just the threat of one, sends the entire global market into a total panic. Okay, but now we get to the most serious development of all. This isn't just about threats anymore. The Pentagon has actually ordered the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit and the USS Tripoli, which is a massive amphibious assault ship, to head to the region. The chess pieces are literally being moved across the board for a potential ground operation.
So what would an actual invasion look like?
Well, military analysts are pointing out that those first U.S. airstrikes line up perfectly with the first steps of an assault. They took out the exact targets you would hit, air defenses, the naval base, the runway, before you'd launch an amphibious attack. It's almost like the groundwork has already been laid.
But here's the thing. Taking the island is one thing. Holding it is something else entirely. As this military editor points out, the real risk isn't just the initial assault. If Iran believed the island was truly lost, they could just unleash everything they have to bombard it, which would make it an incredibly dangerous place to be. So when you put it all together, the strikes, the threats, the military movements, you're left with an entire region just teetering on the brink of a much, much wider and more devastating conflict.
And while all this high-stakes maneuvering is going on, we can't forget the real-world consequences. The human toll of this wider conflict is already just stark. We're talking thousands killed and millions of people forced from their homes across the region.
So, is there any off-ramp here? Any way out? Well, for now, it looks like diplomacy is pretty much stalled. President Trump has confirmed that Iran is willing to come to the table, but he's already rejected their first terms, saying they're just not good enough yet. So the door isn't totally closed, but nobody is walking through it.
So what this all boils down to is a seriously dangerous game of chicken. The U.S. is using the threat of total economic annihilation to force Iran's hand, and Iran is firing back with the threat of pure regional chaos. Each side is pushing the other closer and closer to a line that, once it's crossed, could be absolutely catastrophic.
And that leaves us right here, with the one ultimate unanswered question. With warships steaming towards the Gulf and ultimatums hanging in the air, the entire world is just watching and waiting to see. Who is going to blink first?